way too loud. So I did actually bring a couple notes because I heard I was going to be put on the spot.
Okay.
And it'll be easier to make sure that I get within the 10-minute time frame, and that I actually follow. Joe's actually the originator of this, I believe, the 10-minute talk.
Yeah.
And is that shared with Platinum Group?
We did it at the last Platinum meeting, so it's relatively new to this group. I mean, we've been doing it more in 25K, but people tend to love it. And you know, TED, which I love, TED Talks. And any of you watch TED? Yeah, I mean, TED I think is incredible. And I thought, you know, this whole thing is ideas worth spreading. And I was like, how about ideas worth using? And so we actually do 10-minute talks, and we really focus on just really, you know, best practices. Yeah.
Yeah, and the 10-minute talk format really was invaluable to me when I learned it just at the last 25K group, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And is Joe Polish brilliant to bring all of us together? Can we hear from Joe, please? Thank you. So that was my first note. Thank Joe Polish, and definitely 25K group. If anybody, I've already had a couple of people ask me, you know, is it valuable? What's the process to get in? There is actually an interview form you need to fill out and show that you're worthy and acceptable to the group. I got over $2.5 million worth of ideas from just my first meeting alone, so I really validate Joe's expertise there. But I'm running out of time, so I will go forward to my 10-minute talk. My title is One Steadfast Rule of Hiring, because I figured I could sit here and talk for hours about hiring. It's something I love. Yes, I own the website, ilovehiring.com. Thank you. I also own the website, ihatehiring.com. And that's because even some of my best friends in the industry or whatever, I've said, look, I'm putting together this book, and I wrote the book finally. It's called The Naked Interview, Hiring Without Regret. And many of my friends said, look, I don't even want to read your book, I hate hiring so much. And has anyone had trouble hiring ever before? Anybody by show of hands? Okay, a few of you, good. So I founded a company called The Hiring Academy, and basically I help small business owners, HR professionals in big companies learn how to hire correctly. And it includes some testing, it includes, you know, best practices, like when you talk to somebody over the phone, you should hear them smile. I think that's a really important thing. People say, what? Wow. And then they walk away, and about an hour later they go, that's a really good tip, like, I like that idea, you know? And you can. Next time you're on the phone with somebody, ask yourself, are they smiling? And if you're talking to them about a job opportunity or a career that could change their future, they should be smiling. So in 20 years of business consulting, which is my background, helping businesses organize and structure their business, I would go through a business first and do an evaluation. And it happened to find that every single business had two areas that was their downfall. Maybe not always had both of them, but they had at least one of them. And those two areas, and I mean every single business, I'm not talking in a general sense of the word. Every single business had a success or failure point on marketing, which is why you're all here, right? And personnel. Every single business. And where they had trouble with personnel, oftentimes they had trouble with their marketing, because it's really hard if you're a business owner and you teach somebody about your business and then they do a crappy job of presenting it to the public. Everyone's been to a restaurant and had a really bad server, right? Horrible waitress, horrible experience. Did you ever want to go back to that restaurant? No. Didn't matter how good the food was. Didn't matter how great the ambiance was. Your server was a jerk and you don't want to be treated like that. You're not going to give them your money. The same happens with your business, right? You guys know that even carpet cleaning industry, you send somebody into that house and they do a poor job, or they disrespect the head of the household, or they, you know, make a mistake and don't take ownership and responsibility for it, they're hurting your bottom line. So what I did was I came up with the 10 truths of hiring, and those are in the book. And what I want to do is start with the definition of regret, because that's the key to the title, Hiring Without Regret. And that was everyone who said, I hate hiring, they came up with that there was a regret after hiring somebody. And per the National Labor Board, it costs 1.5 to 3 times as much as a person's salary to hire someone, train them, bring them up through the ranks. Hiring's expensive. Could we agree on that? Yeah. Absolutely. So the definition of regret is a sense of loss, disappointment, dissatisfaction, sorrow, or remorse. And that kind of sums up hiring for a lot of business owners, unfortunately. It comes from the old English or French words of regretter, which means to greet over and over, and more specifically, to weep, and to greet and the weeping over and over. So if you've ever had a bad receptionist, every day you have to go and greet her every day and go, oh, I can't believe I have that person working for me, right? That's regret, okay? So I had very personal experiences that led me to getting into this industry. One was through that consulting. Prior to that, I actually grew up in an abusive household. My mom divorced when I was 2 years old, and then to better our lot in life, she remarried somebody who would help get me into a good school and be in a better neighborhood and all that. And we found out about when Little League season came around. He started to show me how to catch a baseball by throwing a baseball at my face and breaking my nose. Yeah, it was pretty outrageous, and you know, things escalated to needing to dial 911 a few times and all that. And finally, she got well educated enough after I left the household and went to college to really just break away from that scene, and she's really happily married now. But it came, I found that then I had trouble in relationships. I had trouble in business, choosing the right people around me, and I really realized that that's what life's all about. It's about choosing the right people. And I really did a lot of research. I mean, I researched every, method under the sun, moon, and stars of how do you choose the right people, because that was really important to me, and it was really important to the business owners that I was consulting. Because when you hire somebody, you're really bringing them into your family. You're going to see that person. In fact, some of them, you see them more than you see your spouse or your kids, because you spend 8 hours a day with them minimally, a lot of us 12, 14 hours a day, right? So that person's in your family. And how many people have hired somebody the first time they talked to them or the first time they read their resume? Like the first interview. Oh, come on, there's definitely more than that, because I know I've done it myself. Okay, good. So my first truth is this. And this is what I, through Joe's format, it says, good, now give them something that they can take away. Okay, so this is, if you only got one rule, this would be it. Be diligent, not desperate. Be diligent, not desperate. Should we do like a cheering crowd? You guys all say, be diligent. You guys all say, be desperate. Don't be desperate. It's really simple. Every business owner I talked to, and they had to fire somebody, I had them look back and they say, what were you thinking when you hired them? And they all look at me like, I knew it. Have you ever had that happen before? Yeah, I knew it. When did you know it? Well, that first interview. It was kind of the way they kept playing with their ear, or scratching themselves, or the way they were a little bit rude. Or the fact that the first interview they came in a full suit and tie, and the second interview they came in jeans and sneakers like they owned the place. I know there's a 30, 60, 90-day rule, but there's also a day one rule. Sorry, this isn't going to work out. So if you take anything at all from this, obviously, I'd love you to read the book. I'd love to talk to you more about your business and such, but this is a marketing seminar. But be diligent, not desperate in your hiring. The first thing to do before you even hire somebody is look at your own staff. Look at your own areas. And if you've got Sally over in the corner who's doing the job of 10 people, and Frank over there is only doing the job of 1, and Sally does it with energy and enthusiasm, and Frank does it with a I could give a shit attitude, excuse my language, then maybe you should just fire him and take 10% of that salary and give it to Sally, and she will lie down in front of a train for you for the rest of her career with you, right? And you'll have saved the whole time and energy and trouble of having to hire somebody. Okay? Simple. So can we agree to be diligent, not desperate, as we go forward in our hiring? Okay, thanks a lot. That's my 10-minute talk.
Thank you. Very good. Let's spend this like maybe 5 minutes for Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for David?
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Hillary Rubin, and
Hi, Hillary.
Hi. I have a coaching practice, and my business is mostly virtual. So I don't see what they wear, and it's really not that important to me.
It's true.
So I'm in the midst of hiring an assistant and a right-hand girl, essentially. a lot of them are enthusiastic. I want to make sure they have the same values. It's a matter of the trusting. Like, is there a question? You know, I mean, I've asked questions which might make people laugh, but I'll get to a point and just say, you know, like, what do you do on the weekend? Like, what do you do with your time? And also what your future is. So I want to kind of get, like, some questions to know that someone that I can trust that's going to be there for me, because I've gone through a lot of virtual assistants.
Totally understand. Thank you for your question. Really appreciate it.
You.
So, okay, good. So, an answer to that. There are, realize also, and when I wrote the book and I wrote The 10 Truths, I really, you know, and I think this is something I picked up from Joe too, because Joe will tell you, he's not the genius marketing guy. He just reads so many darn marketing books that he's a vault of information from other marketers. And so that's what I did along the way as well. So I don't pretend that the 10 truths are the only 10 truths. They're 10 truths. And you may have other successful practices. And I've had people come to me, and I had a buddy tell me, you know, they have a great question at one of his franchises, which is, he asked the interviewee, how would you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And I was like, dude, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And he said, no, really, but the really good candidates will say, well, a sandwich is really all about the bread, so it's in the selection of the bread, and you got to make sure you get a really good, you know. And I was like, wow, this is really just too difficult. So if you cut to the chase, for your specific issue, Hillary, right? What I would ask them is, what products have they produced? What dones have they gotten? What have they done that they've actually produced? What can they show you? I went into a business once that had automotive detailing, and the guy had 3 resumes that had the same photograph of the same car. And one guy, you know, was going to get hired, and we found out all he did was put the decals on the car, whereas the other guy had done the entire rebuild of the engine and built out the car. So ask really carefully about what they've produced before. I think that's really important. And I ask creative questions. You know, I'll ask, like, if you were on the, you know, if you were on a football team, you can ask, or, you know, you can change that to fit your public. You know, what position would you say you have played in your past, you know, teams, and what do you think your contribution was? And so that makes somebody actually not be prepared, because, you know, when they go to the temp agencies and stuff, it's like they drill you. Okay, now when they ask you what you've produced, here's what you're going to say, okay? And you're like, okay, and they learn it, and they just robot it back to you, and they'll sit there glazed eyes and say, I believe that I want to have a career, not just a job. I believe that I have a future that I can, and they just, and you go, wow, this is ridiculous, right? So what you want to do is get them to have to get out of their comfort zone, and that's where you'll find the jewels. That's where you'll find, you know, somebody will stop and they'll say, you know, this field really means a lot to me because, and now, you know, you got somebody you can actually relate with and feel good about. And just my last point on that is, whoever's leaving that job, if they've done a good job, make sure you sit them down, it can be on paid time, and make them write up what they did successfully. I mean, you know, God forbid Eunice was ever gone. There are so many idiosyncrasies of what she would have to write up of, Joe's a little crazy about this, Joe's a little crazy about that, Joe does this. Yep. It's really important that when somebody leaves an area, if they've done a good job, that they really write up what they've done successfully to help the business. Okay?
Totally.
Good.
Okay, we got time literally for one more question, so we'll go to you. If you want to.
Sir?
Group interviews, efficient or insult?
Group interviews. If you're hiring a group to all work together, you may want to have them after individual interviews get together for a group, but I don't think group interviews are useful because people will play off of others' emotions and tones and, you know, end up, you know, you can make a room or a group or a crowd or a mob do anything you want it to, but to get an individual that one-on-one look you in the eye and give you an honest answer is going to really separate the man from the boys.
What if we did a special, like, platinum teleseminar for one of our coaching calls or something with you on this subject, where we have people submit questions in advance?
If anybody's interested, that
well,
would be
I mean,
really
this subject clearly needs more time in order to give it, like, real justice, so I know there's limited
No,
what you
I'd
could
be happy
say.
to do that. You know, I'd be happy. Anybody who's part of Joe Polish's network, I'm happy to help you anytime, even with, you know, individual questions, individual help, because Joe has really meant a lot to me in life and my new future. And I'm sure he's going to mean the same to you, so absolutely.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.